Good morning, everybody.
Good
On the
morning.
road again. Hey, Liam, say what's up. Wave. Wave, Liam.
It's like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. How are
I
you
love
guys?
Monday mornings.
It is a Monday morning.
Wow. Well, I'm going to just jump right into we'll go super deep, and don't worry, ladies, we will be lightening it up, but I can hear myself. We had, I'm sure everybody, if anyone, is totally aware what happened in Las Vegas. And because I'm in Southern California, I actually saw because I logged into Facebook this morning, and turns out friends of mine were actually there, and one friend's husband got shot in the thigh. I mean, it's just craziness. This is just like a crazy world we live in. So we're just going to take a moment and just pray for, because honestly, whether you were there or not, it just is like one more thing. I told my husband he's running in the Chicago Marathon this weekend. I'm already like, I don't want to be at any large event outside. And I'm not like a very fear-based person, but I'm like, I just feel like, oh my gosh, like just you're hearing about this so much. So
well, in case nobody, there might be some people that don't know what we're talking about too. And this is counted as the deadliest mass shooting in history. So a gentleman shot from the Mandalay Bay 32nd floor into a country concert. So far 50 reported dead. And, it's one of those things that I know each person watching this either probably has a friend that was at that concert, or knows somebody that was there or was supposed to be there. That's my hometown. And so, that's actually a really small concert for Vegas. So,
country people are like the nicest people out there. At least I think so. Just like good time people.
Yeah.
So do you want to take a minute to pray for everyone?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Heavenly Father, we can't explain why these things happen. And even when there's answers, it still won't lessen the hurt and the pain that was caused. And we just pray that you would be with the victims' families and the people that were just traumatized by the event, the people that were supposed to be there and still reconciling why, and all the different emotions and heartache that comes into play with this tragedy. We just pray that you would bring comfort to those that are hurting.
Amen.
Amen.
Well,
one of the things I know, and I was thinking about this morning, my sister goes to country concerts all the time. She was just at this venue last weekend. And, obviously that was my first thing, is making sure she was safe. And then my other sister was supposed to go to the concert last night, and through a course of events, they didn't go. And, just the heartache, hearing it from them, I think we've all faced trauma. We've all faced these things in our life where it puts your life on this total pause button and makes you go, whoa, there's no guarantee for tomorrow. Like, life is short. And are we pursuing everything we're supposed to be pursuing? Are we really taking advantage of having that sense of urgency of running towards what we're called to run towards? These are those events. And I know for me, the biggest things in my life that were traumatic with, my son's accident and different things, I came out of those more on fire to be bold with my purpose and be like, you know what? I don't even care about that other stuff anymore, because I have a short amount of time to run towards this. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'd agree to that. There's also this part of me, and honestly, yesterday morning, I read a devotion and was really convicted by it. So John Bevere just wrote a book called Killing Kryptonite. I sent it to you girls, but for those of you guys watching the SBS community, Killing Kryptonite by John Bevere, just reading the opening portion was very convicting to me, because some of this stuff happens, and truthfully, my prayer is often, God, don't let me forget. Don't let me forget what you've stirred up in me because of it. Because the reality is we forget the good stuff, and we forget how we felt in the middle of the trauma, the things that God is speaking to us in the middle of those really raw moments. And so yesterday morning, before any of this stuff happened, of course, in Vegas, there was just this stirring in me, because the Killian kryptonite really begins with, do you understand who God made you to be? Do you understand how he views Christians? Because the way that it's described, the first church, the first group of, quote, Christ followers, they lived a different life than us, not because of culture, right? We could blame all kinds of things. Like you said, we can blame the culture for what we do and don't do as Christians. But we should be the ones that people come to for hope. We should be the ones that counteract these attacks in the opposite spirit in a huge, bigger, more impactful way. Our worship, our prayers should be creating thunder. So I read that yesterday, and then was praying about that in church, and just felt this like, okay, God, don't let me forget. So when I think of things like Vegas, and these things happen, they're awful. And I don't want to say anything cliche at all right now. And so I just speak from my own trauma. I'm not trying to say that this is how somebody else should feel or think right now going through the trauma.
Right.
But I look back at my moments of time, and they were moments, because we were just reminiscing about the hospital this morning, because we were packing up, we're traveling again. And you remember those moments with a certain level of feeling. And there's a certain, at least for people that pressed into Jesus during those times, there's a certain level of hearing, and there's a certain level of intimacy. There's a certain level of clarity that comes during those times. And I just say, don't let me forget.
Right.
Stir me into action. Don't let the kryptonite that John Bevere is going to go into, don't let the kryptonite be my weakness as a Christian. I want to be, and She's Velvet Still is all about that, countercultural. Let us be different than what other people are and how they're responding. Let us be different.
Right.
That's my response to it.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one super positive note about tragedy is there was a report that just came out that for even the flooding in Houston, we're going to hit every tough topic today. I've already cried, so I'm ready to go. That the church has already given more money and more support than even FEMA. And FEMA, like, they released all the resources. So, like, I think that's one thing that is countercultural, that we aren't just the Christians that go to church anymore on Sundays, or just people that say, no, I love God, and I listen to this amazing podcast, and it's great devotional. It's like a walking out, living it out, and saying, okay, you know, what can we do? And if it's as simple as just saying, like, I've never even been to Vegas, I don't even know anybody in Vegas, but I'm going to sit here and just pray for them today, or just, you know, send out little Facebook posts. It's like prayers for all in Vegas. I mean, I just think it's like, we're kind of, it is that moment where it's like, okay, we can just have these bad things, and we hear them happening so much, and maybe even in our own lives, they've just happened so much that we're just kind of like, we all just become numb to it. But like you guys are both saying, it's just like, no, in that moment, God always shows you something so clearly. Like, I mean, I had my own little flour fight that I didn't realize all my friends were going to be. When I say flour, like we, so like flour, like baking flour, you're going to bake a cake, and everybody got their own individual little bags, and we went outside, geared up, you know, some people had goggles on, and then they took them off, and sunglasses, and just went crazy with it. What I find almost more amusing is that all my friends are like, how are you going to clean that up? I'm like, won't the rain wash it away? And now I realize, you know what, it never rains in California. So it's going to be white for a while. But it's been on my heart to do. I've actually had these bags of flour, wanting to do this for 2 weeks, because I've been just feeling like Ryan and I, my husband and I, just been in this moment to make a concerted effort to find more joy.
Yes.
Sounds weird. Like, we just need to have more joy, silly, crazy moments. And I mean, we've talked a lot about being intentional, and it's like, there's so much heavy stuff, be it even in our own personal lives. Like, when you kind of come to like, how are we going to pay for certain schooling and just all the extracurricular things our kids want to do. And goodness knows, I mean, you know, Social Security's gone. So what are we going to do when we get old? Who's going to take care of me? I just little thoughts that go through my head while I'm, you know, not shaving my armpits, because I just want to also put that out there. That's going on a trend on Facebook that supposedly it's going to come back that women don't need to shave their armpits anymore.
No.
Started in China.
That's not the countercultural we're speaking
I'm gonna post it SBS. But just, just being intentional and being like, what is my purpose? And it's like, I know that God wants me to have joy. I know that he wants me to enjoy my crazy kids. I know he wants me to enjoy my friends, and he wouldn't give me all the stuff he did if he didn't want me to have some fun with it. So sometimes
I think life is tough. Like you said, the bills, the meals, the everyday schedules, the just trying to keep it up. And then you
lunches.
and then you add these these tragedies on top of it, where if we're not intentional about where we're spending our time, what we're listening to, getting our thoughts on the right thing. And some people are more prone to others. And this isn't even our topic today, but we'll just go with it. It's depressing. It will send a healthy person into a depressed mode, let alone someone that's already has that bent. And I was thinking about how the news, like with this Vegas thing, all the news people are searching for answers. We're going to get answers. We're going to get answers. And I'm like, nothing you can say, nothing you can find out is going to help make sense of it. It makes no sense. And no fact that you discover will make sense. But we have to stand on the truth. And that is, God is still God. And we may not be able to make sense, and we won't be able to make sense of the tragedies, but we know that we have a life in front of us. We have kids to raise, we have a marriage to take care of, and we have our businesses to run, and we must stay on that positivity. Otherwise, all of that will take us out.
Yeah. I mean, because even on a practical level, I mean, I just think of, Jamie, you've had 4 kids and none of them had seizures minus 1. And what's the difference? It's not like you ate anything different, or, you rode roller coasters the entire time you were pregnant with Noah, and you're like, oh, dang it. That's why they tell pregnant women not to go on roller coasters. That wasn't the case at all. And it's like, if you're probably sitting there being like, okay, God, what makes sense of because I think what you said is so true, just even in our own lives. Like, it's just, there makes no sense with stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Tying back into your intentional comments, Reagan, and about intentionally bringing joy, and then going back to our conversation last week of purpose. Right. We ended that conversation talking about the things we're passionate about. And I loved what people were saying. But I want to narrow that down just a little bit, which is a really difficult topic to narrow down, but I'm going to do it in 2 minutes or less. Okay, time me.
All right.
It's not just what you're passionate about.
Set your timer, about. Megan.
All right. I'm not starting until you say go. No, just joking. So it's not just what you're passionate about, like our hobbies, the things that we enjoy. Because the reality is we've seen enough American Idol auditions that they're passionate about music, but they're not gifted in music, and they shouldn't be auditioning. But there's things that God's put in us, that there's passions, and then there's gifting. And every single person has it, every single one. And it isn't something that we had to develop. It's not something that we went to gifting school for, whatever that thing was. It's just something that is a sweet spot. It's the intersection of what God put in you and your passions, because he also put those passions in your heart. So when we find that intersection, there's a way that we impact the world in that's so unique to just us. Right. There's an urgency on that, totally. that the world is missing out of a piece of God's character and that unique reflection of his character if we are not intentional about that. So when it comes to joy, Reagan, I think that's one of your giftings, is bringing joy. So I'm glad to hear you saying that you're being intentional, starting in your own home, because you bring joy in every person, in every contact relationship that you have. I'm sure Becky was feeling that when you left her in Costco, because that's who you are. That's your gifting, and you're passionate about people. So you're intentional about bringing joy to people's lives. That's what purpose is. That's what walking in unshakable faith and grit is when it comes to our purpose, is knowing the thing that God put in you to do and your passions, where they collide, and then doing that every single day.
Right.
So I know we've been super intense, and now.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, you know what? It was right at the 2-minute mark that she froze.
You're off. You're cut off, Jamie. Your 2-minute mark.
Oh, am I cut now?
Oh, no, you're there.
And you're back.
Okay, good. Okay.
I hope you just didn't tell us the secret of life and we lost it.
Yeah. She was going to say world peace. I swear that's what she said.
Yeah. Well, I just thought there was a way to make this lighter. If we want to kind of end this on a lighter note, the reality is that our purpose is, it's not something you have to search hard for. It's not something that it has to be this really hard thing to uncover. It's where those passions, giftings collide, and I think I might be cutting out soon.
Yep.
Am I out again?
A little bit.
Sorry. Okay.
So let's go back to those passions. And if you're watching us, drop, if you didn't get to do that assignment last week, drop some of the things that excite you and kind of bring that joy to you. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the assignment like Jamie talked about, but it could just be something like, I think we had a couple people say they like home decorating or, reading and, interacting with some people. Some people get tons of energy from interacting with people. Some people, it sucks the life out of them. Some people like one-on-one better than group settings. So what were some of yours, Megan? So as we're talking, you guys, we'd love drop. You could even drop emojis that represent the things that you love doing.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I just saw that my cousin Jamie Taylor, what up, joined. It made me think one of the things she did when we were younger, relatively speaking, is she got me to run in it was a Missoula 10K, which at that time to me was like, oh my gosh, Jesus better come back before we hit mile 2 of this race. Like, he did it. Obviously, I'm still here. Some people, but just, since then I know that's something she's been passionate about. And just in that, I know she draws that out of other people, like even with me. So for myself, I put, when we were doing this last week, I was like, what do I love? I'm like, I love the movies. I love, all these things. And even today, I actually thought I was going to go work out. But here's something I found out about myself is I don't love doing anything by myself. That sounds crazy. I do love being alone upstairs in my room by myself. Okay.
Right.
But I don't want to go to the movies by myself. I don't want to go to dinner by myself. I don't want to even work out by myself. I'm like, oh, I feel weird. I got to have somebody with, I don't know. It's just, but again, so take that, like what Jamie was saying. And I love having a friend that can pull all your random thoughts where you just, I don't know, and then just nail it down for you.
Right.
And we want to help people with that. Jamie wants to help people with that. Me, I'll just be like, I don't know. Let's just talk. Let's keep going. But realizing that, what? Some people, it drains them to hang out with other people. You can talk extrovert, introvert, Right. And for me, and I know you're very similar, Jen, just love it. I had this woman over to my house. She's from Vietnam. That's another thing I'm passionate about. I absolutely love people from other countries. I love traveling. I just love it, and I love meeting new people. I was at Costco and this, I'm coming out. I'm just realizing annoyed at myself again for leaving the list and the thing. And this woman stops and I'm staring at her because I'm thinking, this is so amazing. She's pushing a stroller with her kid in it on one hand, and she's pulling on the other hand, it's kind of walking like this with a Costco cart. And I was just staring at this woman, kind of zoning out, just thinking, that's amazing. Look at how amazing we are as women. And then she stops and she's just staring at me. I'm staring at her. And then I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy woman. She's like, I know you. And I'm like, I know you. And then I never think that. I'm always like, yeah, it's me. I just totally would go with it. But I couldn't even for the life of me recognize her. And it turned out a girlfriend from SVS had seen our coffee talks and is one of your best
Shout
friends.
out to Dexter, my maid of honor.
Yeah, so we just walked to the store. Now we shopped at Costco together, which is even better because I was by myself a moment later. And now I'm hanging out with a new friend, helping her. She changes her baby's diaper back in the water, section, and just loving life. So,
that's connection. And that's, I remember that, wanting to hear people's stories. I love to hear people's stories. It's one of my favorite things of tell me your story. How did you get from that country over to the United States? Or how did you go from how was that? How did you end up getting married at 19? Or how did you, all these different things. I feel like we can learn so much from each other. And the different stories that are just polarizing to what we've experienced. I'm thinking I can learn so much from that. So I think that's part of my passion with the whole connection thing is I realize how much I can learn from other people's stories. and you hear their passion and you hear what they're excited about. And you also can see I think it's so much easier to see God's fingerprints in someone else's life than I have to be super intentional about looking in the rearview mirror at like what he's done in my life. It's not like easy to see it right away, but I can see it in other people's life. And I think we can draw strength from seeing his fingertips in other people's lives of like, wow, that's how he kind of drew you to this area that you're so passionate about, or you grew to be passionate about. And I think if you talk to the majority of the people that are pursuing something they love with that unshakable grit, they just run towards it, even with the obstacles. Because let's face it, when you pursue your purpose, you're going to be faced with lots of obstacles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk to those people, I guarantee you all of them have said at one point, this thing they're doing now was uncomfortable for them to a certain degree at one point. You know, there's certain comfort zones that pursuing your purpose doesn't mean you stay in your comfort zone. I think it does consist of getting out of your comfort zone and really pursuing it with that unshakable grit, you know?
Yeah. And I like what you said about the stories that people have, because even with you, you know, like you said, it's always easy to see it on somebody else. And I know that I'm not the only one like thinking this, and many of our other ladies too. It's just like when you hear somebody being so real about your story. I mean, you've talked about your marriage and you've talked about stuff you struggle with your kids. Like immediately when you can get in and hear somebody else's story, and nobody's story so far has been like, oh my gosh, I was raised a princess in my castle, and I married my prince, and my princess perfect children all came out. I mean, it's never that story. And I think that's what we're just missing today, is being able to like, one, we're just so confused with our purpose because we're inundated, you know, with intentionally options. So with people trying to put their best foot forward on Facebook. Okay. I mean, I'm still cleaning up the flower fight. Okay. I'm still cleaning it up. Just want to let you know.
Okay. I have a confession. So Reagan did a flower fight. So the actual baking flour, like the actual tiny white particles that turn into glue when water is added.
I didn't know that happens. I don't know that happens. Nobody told me that.
So she posts on Facebook and I'm sitting there. And that yesterday morning, we heard a message on letting the negative slip off of you and letting the good stick to you like Velcro. So I'm rolling through this message of like, okay, especially when it comes to my kids, negative, it's slipping off. I'm just so proud of you for breathing. You're breathing so well. And so I'm digging deep yesterday, trying to find these things that I can Velcro onto positively and letting all the fighting and the negativity and the jabs and the blah, 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 just it's slipping off of me like Teflon. And then I go on Facebook and Reagan posts this picture of her whole family covered in white flour, and they had a flower fight. And I had a moment of comparing. I totally had a moment of comparing, but in a good way, because you have those friends in your life that take you to the next level. Jamie does that for me. You do that for me. Like, you have to place people in your life. Like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're screwed. So you gotta place people in your life that are more fun than you and have more clarity than you and work harder than you and are more disciplined than you. So that's really what I've done. Even just surround myself with all these people. So when I see a post like that, I don't go, oh, well, good for her. I'm over here trying to let all the negativity slide off and I can't even do that. I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. And so it raises you, it encourages you to just, wow, I want to put the phones away and I want to go, I don't know if I want to have a flower fight. Because I was thinking of the mess to clean up and my OCD and like type A is like, wow.
Yeah.
But you know, you can come up with all kinds of things, but that's what I love. Let's look at the positive on social media and SBS and these things that we can learn each other's stories. And you can find your purpose in that way of like dabbling in things, being inspired by other people, trying things out, because how are you going to know if that's your thing if you don't try it? And we're going to I was thinking if I brought flour out with my boys, it would be in each other's eyeballs. My boys would probably spit in it and make a ball and chuck it at each other as hard as they could.
Yeah. No, it got in the eyes. So after a while it was caked on the eyelashes, but my weakest child ended up being my toughest. I mean, she was like, a maniac. My 6-year-old, she won it for sure. And she can't even open her eyes. They're like glued together, little eyelashes. She's like, I'm okay. I'm like, oh my gosh, stop. Use my shirt. But we still kept going. So
I think next time you guys should do a hose fight first, then a flower fight, and then a down pillow fight. I think that's what you should just do. Three sections and see what you end up like afterwards.
I think that'll be like an SBS reunion when we actually do a live one with all of our families together. But all right, ladies, I think we are going to sign off for this Monday. But definitely, again, we still want to keep going with the purpose and being intentional and intentionally helping each other. So we know a lot of you watched this after the fact, but we're still checking it out. We're still looking online. And I need somebody sometimes to tie together all my thoughts and be like, you know, and even if it's as simple as like being as real and as raw, saying, you know what, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't feel like I can be intentional because I literally feel like a chicken with my head, you know, cut off, like running around all the time. And let's say I have days like that, you know? So, but with people like just saying like, can you help me? That's what we want to do. Okay. We'll sit, we'll pray, and we'll be like, well, this is what we're getting. Is this even gel with what you feel like? And all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, thank you. I would never saw that. So I just think it's exciting. We all have a story. We all have a purpose, and God has a plan for each of us. And it's just those areas that come, you know, that you honestly, it's the stuff that's so easy for us that we don't even give a moment's thought to, like the whole joy and loving people. Like I don't even have to think about that. So then I'm like, what's my purpose? All I like to do is be with people all the time. What's God want me to do? It's like, okay, it's right in front of you.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that, Reagan, is like I think we adopt that idea where your purpose and what you're supposed to be pursuing is this grand thing. It's like the light bulb goes off and you get a call and you get recruited by somebody for this. I've always wanted to do that kind of thing. When really it's that day-to-day right in front of you is, you know, really what do you bring joy to people? Do you bring organization to people? A lot of times it's just right under your nose, and it's the tiniest little daily simple tasks that when you start engaging in them more, then that expands even more. And then you engage in it more and you're aware of it and you hone it and you strengthen it like a muscle.
Yeah.
Then it grows stronger and stronger and it leads to other things. So I think that is probably the worst thing we could do is look ahead and not see what's right in front of us. And let God slowly build that as we are obedient to those gifts and those strengths that he's given us. They have to be practiced and strengthened.
Absolutely.
So
let's find it out. I will be posting the pictures of the unshaved armpits too, because nobody's believing me. This is coming back. Back Montanan. Yeah.
Yeah, Missoula's already ahead of that game.
I know. I was going to say Missoula, Seattle, little shout out. You've already been like leading the way for a while. I know I've lived in both those places. All right.
Oh man, don't post your hairy armpits. We don't want those in the comments.
I don't even want to show mine right now. I'm so embarrassed.
Well, we love you guys. Thank you, Reagan.
Bye. Have a great week.
All right. Bye-bye.